the New Zealand Warriors had a win over the Cowboys. Their third gritty, tough, niggly, tricky, by any means win in a row. That's pretty impressive, full stop, but also without James Fisher-Harris. I think that is extra special and something that should be celebrated for Warriors folks. You are a Dragons fan. And my question here is that, because there's a lot that any keen observer can look at that Warriors game versus the Cowboys or any of these other wins in which they haven't played clinical, classy rugby league where they've just had to get the job done by any means. You can poke holes at it. You can say, this is wrong, that's wrong, bad thing there, bad thing there. How desperate, how happy would you be for the Dragons to win 2 games in a row?
One game would be all right at the moment. They had a win streak earlier in the season, but I mean, because those games were back to back on Saturday night, Friday night, whichever one it was. Saturday night, I think. Those games were back to back. Both of them ended up being decided by like 1 try in terms of the final scoreline. And there was a decisive moment at the end of the first half of both of them where the Warriors scored an intercept try. Grabbed the ball, I can't remember who it was, scooped one up and ran away and touchdown, and important few points right there on the brink of halftime. Turned out to be more important than even realized when the Cowboys made a bit of a comeback in the second half. The Dragons version of that was to have who was it? Saw, wasn't it? Just diving over the line, kicking the ball out of his own hands when he was about to score a try, untouched. And then Jareem Buller to scoop the ball up, run 105 meters and score it in the other direction. So it was sort of not just a 6-point swing but during a try, but a 12-point swing, and a game where they ended up losing by 4 or 6 or whatever it was. So, if the Dragons showed a fraction of the sort of the grittiness that the Warriors did in that same on that same pitch a couple hours earlier, that would have come in pretty handy, because there is. You don't necessarily think of those moments as being decisive because they're not. There's a whole lot of half to go afterwards. But when you look back on the game and you see the Warriors capitalizing in a key moment like that, I mean, that's how you win. That's how you make use of close contests like that. It's how you get those 2 competition points on the board, is by being able to do things like that, whether you're at your best or not. And the way to lose games is to do the opposite of that, which is butchering that try in that same moment and then conceding at the exact same time, which I've never ever seen before. Like that was heartbreaking to witness. Still so soon after the Luka Doncic trade as well. Like I'm really in the weeds with these ones. It's been tough times for my non-New Zealand sports teams that I support.
Well, Manchester United suck as well, so
they suck too. So, well, they might win the Europa League though. So
happy times for you. The Warriors, these aren't perfect wins, but they're wins, and they are wins that the Dragons and other NRL teams are not getting. And if we keep this comparison going with the Dragons, the Warriors are the top 4 team, 2023, 2025. Dragons would love to be a top 8 team in 2 out of those 3 seasons as well. Dragons would probably also love to have a top 4 New South Wales Cup team 3 years in a row. And they might also want to be back-to-back Harold Matthews Cup champions in their first 2 seasons. More on that in a jiffy. The Warriors against the Cowboys, it was an interesting game, and actually we do have Warriors versus Dragons coming up this weekend, so don't want to talk too much shit, because
didn't even realize
that might not look too flash next weekend, but we'll see, because the Warriors might win. The Cowboys are like a classic score points can't defend team, and we heard it throughout the commentary of the game. Oh, don't count out the Cowboys. Oh, they got a lot of points in. I'll come back. At no stage in that game did I feel like the Cowboys could stop the Warriors. And to use basketball language, who got the stop won that game. The Warriors didn't stop the Cowboys for most of the second half after Rocco Berry left the field, but they did make the stops in the final 5 to 10 minutes to get the win. And it's like, well, the Warriors didn't go down the Cowboys' end of the field in the second half to challenge the Cowboys' defense. And that's the difference between those two teams because, I mean, I won't touch on the Australian bias, but that's all right. The Cowboys don't defend. The Warriors do defend. The Warriors won that game. And if you, like, it doesn't, that seems kind of crazy because the Warriors still conceded 26 points or whatever it was. But that shows you how good the Cowboys are in attack, in a shootout. And there are a few mishaps like Tane Tuapiki coughing up the ball right into Jeremiah Nanai and so on. But the Warriors lost Rocco Berry during the game. They lost Ali Leotawa just before the game. And they were still able to make enough stops with a makeshift defense to get the win. It's not like the Warriors had their top 17 settled edges, cohesion, combinations, and chemistry in those defensive edges to play their best defensive footy. No, they had to adapt mid-game. And that's also a trend we've seen throughout the season. Because there's been a lot of injuries and head knocks and stuff mid-game, but the Warriors just absorb it. And Kurt Capewell is a key factor because he usually goes to center, either side of the field. And then against the Cowboys, you started with Leka Halasima at right edge, Rocco Berry right center, Tane Tuapiki right wing. Rocco Berry gets injured. So then we've got Marata Niukore right edge, Kurt Capewell right center, Tane Tuapiki on the wing with Leka Halasima going across to the left edge. Once again, Leka Halasima is playing both sides of the field, which is pretty useful if you can do that with ease. And Kurt Capewell is playing edge forward and center relatively comfortably as well. So it seems crazy for me to big up the Warriors' defense when they did concede 26 points, but I think late in that game, it was their defense that won them the game. And there's a bunch of factors, I think, to why they conceded those points, but that's all good. Obviously, Luke Metcalf had his moments, plural, because he did have a few moments. The line breaks, the tries, the tackle in the corner. The most important thing, I think, with Luke Metcalf is his kicking and how him and Chanel Harris-Tavita share the kicking equally. You've got sensible distribution of kicking. How about that for a sentence? Last season, it was all Sean Johnson, 500 kicking meters per game. Now we've got Metcalf and Chanel Harris-Tavita, 250 kicking meters, 300 kicking meters each. Chanel Harris-Tavita left foot, Luke Metcalf right foot. And I think that combination is pretty slick and gets the job done. And if we're looking at the top of the table, Bulldogs, who's their halfback? Toby Sexton. Raiders, who's their halfback? Jamal Fogarty. Warriors, who's their halfback? Luke Metcalf. None of those dudes are $1 million. None of those dudes are marquee headline halfback types, but they get the job done. But there's the obvious, Australians realizing that Aotearoa loves rugby league, that Aotearoa is really good at rugby league, and Kiwis love to watch rugby league, to support rugby league. They're learning about that, so that's okay. I'll be empathetic to the journey of Australians learning about that. On the one hand, it's okay, a lot of the commentators are halfbacks, so all they can talk about is the halfback. The key to this game is the halfback. It's okay, you're a halfback, so why don't you tell me something different? And I'm also, that's on the other hand, that is my perspective where I was I can't come on here and just talk about Luke Metcalf. Because then I'm just saying the same shit that Cooper Cronk's saying. The same shit that Matty Johns is saying.
At least Sean Johnson directed it to Wade Egan, though.
Yeah, fair play. Like, yes, Luke Metcalf's good. He's having a good season. He's not the best player right now. Best player for the Warriors is Aaron Clark. That dude is fantastic in the middle. And the Cowboys scored a lot of points when Aaron Clark was off the field. And to me, that is his like physicality, aggression in the tackle. He put Jason Taumalolo on his backside in the first half. He's also quick. So he covers ground. And if you cover ground, it's that speed and aggression with and without the footy. Because without the footy, you can cover the ground, make a dominant tackle. With the footy, that speed and aggression is the meters. And when Aaron Clark, the thing about Aaron Clark is he chooses when to pass out the back and when to run very wisely. And if he's running fast and he's running powerfully. When he passes, he's passing crisp and accurately. I think Metcalf had a line break in the first half. Someone scored a try, I can't remember. He got the ball on the outside of a Cowboys defender, I think it was Nanai, from Aaron Clark passing behind a decoy runner to get Metcalf the ball in space. And I want to challenge myself to look beyond Sean Johnson in 2023. I want to challenge myself to look beyond Luke Metcalf. But it's not that hard. Because like Aaron Clark is genuinely the Warriors' best player this season. He has exploded. Big minutes, like 60-plus minutes in the last 3 games without Fisher Harris. He's the dude stepping up without Fisher Harris. He has been fantastic. Awesome bit of recruitment. Also, awesome bit of business from the Warriors there. The Sam Healy made his debut. It wasn't actually like Wade Egan's best game. He didn't have many meters. He gets about his work, little flick passes. By flick, I mean like flick at a wrist. No-look spirals in both directions, the craft. But he wasn't as dynamic a runner as he had been. And he didn't have the opportunities in the second half really because they were on the back foot. But maybe it was a different style of play from the Warriors where they were kind of shifting the ball to the edges a bit more to challenge the Cowboys. But Sam Healy made his debut, and that's pretty interesting because he shared the field with Wade Egan. I think it was like 5 or 6 minutes where they shared the field. Sam Healy was playing as the lock, small forward, and Wade Egan was playing at hooker. So that's been happening in New South Wales Cup as well, where Sam Healy is sharing the field with Micaiah Tafua from Christchurch, most notably. Freddie Lussick is a hooker, but this is where we get into the wider themes at the Warriors because that small forward position is a thread throughout the whole roster, throughout the whole system. Because Sam Healy and Wade Egan, Sam Healy got some minutes as a small forward alongside Aaron Clark in the NRL team. The New South Wales Cup team, sometimes they're playing with Sam Healy, Micaiah Tafua, Freddie Lussick, and Keilani going. If Sam Healy's playing NRL, then you got Freddie Lussick, Micaiah Tafua, and Keilani going. If we go down to under 21s, well, Micaiah Tafua is under 21s, and when he's playing under 21s, he's playing in the same team as Jacob Auloa, who is a hooker. So in the top 3 grades for the Warriors, they each have a small forward who is either just a small forward in general, Freddie Lussick, Kaylani going, Aaron Clark, or they also play hooker, but they're playing as a small forward. Under 21s at lock, you've got Etuati Fuka, who's so small he was a rugby union halfback. Now he is a small forward in the Jersey Flegg team. That's the other thing about Aaron Clark. Keep saying it. As a junior, he was a halfback. He was a half. He debuted at hooker. Now he's got the physicality, but he still has the playmaking skills that he grew up with. I think off the top of my head, Aaron Clark was the player at Manurewa High School. He was like a dominant schoolboy player at Manurewa High School, playing in the halves before he started to rise up with the Warriors. So that small forward style is a common factor. And then you saw Sam Healy get into dummy half when Wade Egan left the field, and you saw the creativity that he has shown all season in New South Wales Cup. He is smooth. Like, everything is just smooth. He's a taller hooker, like Wade Egan, and he just kind of glides, but he's fast. He showed his little kicking game as well. He had the confidence to put in a kick like that late in the game against the Cowboys. And if you get into the stats, Wade Egan, his average meters per game has had a massive boost this season from all of his previous NRL seasons. Sam Healy, his average meters per game has also had a massive boost in New South Wales Cup. So he had 2 seasons with Newtown Jets, which is the Sharks reserve grade team. And then when he joined the Warriors, he went up to, I think, 100 meters per game running meters. Not all of them are dummy half meters. Same with Wade Egan. But that's an obvious trend right there, right? Like, your starting dummy half, Wade Egan, has exploded for running meters. Your reserve grade dummy half has also exploded for run meters. It's like my mind's just exploding with like what that means.
Running meters?
Run. If I can boil a couple seconds of like hundreds of thoughts in my mind to one insight, there's no Andrew Webster style, right? Like, we've seen 3 different seasons of the Warriors playing 3 different styles, or not 3 different styles, but fluid styles. Getting the job done last season with second-tier players, rolling out your perfect distribution footy in 2023. In the last 2 seasons, Wade Egan, he was 50 meters per game, 60 meters per game. Now he's getting close to 100 meters per game, if not higher. And you've also seen a massive increase for Sam Healy in New South Wales Cup. So for me, that tells me that under Andrew Webster, the Warriors just keep adapting. They keep adding different things to how they play their rugby league. And there isn't a Andrew Webster style of footy.
The style thing is interesting, because as you're saying that, I was thinking about like some of the, a pocket that I follow that we both follow quite closely recently with the Kiwi teams in the A-League there. And I was thinking, I don't know that I don't think there's really a Steve Corica style of play either, like in a footballing sense there. I don't know that there's things that Steve Corica is like, this is how this team needs to win their games. This is how they are going to score their goals. I think there are prerequisites that Steve Corica has. I think he expects every player out there to do their defensive work as much as their attacking work, no matter whether they're a striker or a centre back. I think he expects his in the same way, I think he expects all his players to challenge for loose balls and be competitive, like to get stuck into tackles and aerial challenges and stuff like that where they can. But I don't think he's picked a team, even though like there did seem to be a clear angle of like, let's get speedy wingers and that kind of thing. Some skillful number 10 type slash number 9 type players in there as well. There's elements of that, but I don't think he's saying we're like, this Auckland FC team is going to score their goals by getting overlaps from the fullbacks or by putting the wingers in behind or playing counterattacks or set pieces or whatever. I think there's just like there's like a baseline of expectation, the prerequisites that he has out there, but how everything happens on top of that is just depending on what the players, who's available, who's been picked, maybe a little bit of adaptation depending on who the opponent is. But beyond that defensive stability that he sets the team up with, like there's sort of the foundation there, I think it's a little bit more open, similar to what you're saying about the Warriors there. Whereas I think the Phoenix, for example, are the opposite, where I do think, even though it's flexible, I do think Giancarlo Italiano is setting the Phoenix up to play in certain ways. And that means a lot of transitional football, and that means a lot of counterattacking, but where like Auckland FC will counterattack because it's like a situational thing. The opportunity is there. The Phoenix try to create counterattacks by soaking up pressure and absorbing and then hitting in certain areas, and that where it's a little bit more scripted how they're going to do that. And it's not necessarily that there's a right or wrong. I think the Corica / Webster way is maybe a bit more flexible, a bit more adaptable. But I mean, the Phoenix had a season where that worked really well, and the Phoenix had a season just finished where that worked really badly. So it's like it's not that the strategy was the problem; it's that the performances within the strategy. Like if you don't execute the game plan, you're not going to get anything out of the game plan, right? So I don't know necessarily there's a right or wrong way, but that's what that got me thinking of, is that comparison there between the two A-League thing. Interestingly, all three of those coaches that we're talking about there are Australian coaches coaching New Zealand teams as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It's just a coincidence, but certainly I think that is something that, from my vantage anyway, that seems to have probably helped because where the Phoenix lost key players and couldn't adapt, Auckland FC have been able to go in and out with different players throughout the season, and they have been very adaptable. And we're seeing that with the Warriors right now, aren't we? We're like, James Fisher-Harris isn't playing. Okay, Aaron Clark gets a few more minutes and just is the best player on the parks. No dramas. You know, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is out. Who cares? We're fine. Like, someone else steps up, and then when that someone else is also out, you know, Leotawa doesn't play this weekend. Oh well, I don't know, Adam Pompey's turn, or whoever. I think, was it Ed Cossey might have played? I can't remember. Rocco Berry's come back as well. And like, the point is, it's not mix and match, but it's just like someone else is able to do the job because you're able to adapt slightly what that job is to what that person is able to do.
In New South Wales Cup, the Warriors had a big win, I think, against the Bears, and they are first, 7-1. Tanner Boyd has not lost the game in New South Wales Cup this season. So he hasn't lost a game this year. And he's another nifty bit of recruitment. Tanner Boyd hasn't lost a game, and Te Maire Martin has multiple games where he's involved in at least half the tries in like 40-point wins. And we'll get into this soon as well, where I wanted to go too deep or just explore the depth for Auckland FC, as we tried to do on the bonus podcast last week. And hopefully we can do a better job of it here. But that's the thing about the Warriors, though, is that the depth and the quality of depth, as I've talked about before, that really loves to be at the Warriors. And it's like, I can see how people want to get Te Maire Martin in the team, or this player needs to be in the team. But the Warriors are winning first and foremost, and you need this depth throughout the whole season. So it's like, it's really important to get the wins when your depth is being tested, when you're not playing your best. And it's really important to develop a group of players who can all step in, chime in for a game here, chime in for a game there. And it'll be interesting to see what team is named Tuesday night for the Warriors against the Dragons, because there could be a few more changes as well. But the New South Wales Cup team, this is where we get into some real deep cuts for the Warriors. And this, like, everything at the NRL is pretty impressive. NRL level is pretty impressive. I like what's happening there. I like the fact that they just win and they're getting the wins however they come by any means. But there's stuff happening below the radar of the NRL team that is more impressive to me. The New South Wales Cup team this week, they had on the bench Makai Tafua, Jason Salalilo, and Toby Crosby. Those are my jumping off points. So the fact that the New South Wales Cup team always wins, that's obviously impressive. And if it's, who are the halves in New South Wales Cup? You got Tana Boyd, Tamaita Martin, Luke Hansen. Okay, Sam Healy goes to play NRL. What happens? We've got Makai Tafua there who can play as a small forward, play as a hooker. Let me see who started hooker in this game, though, because I think Freddie Lussick started at hooker and then Makai Tafua came off the bench. So Makai Tafua, he is one of these small forwards that I laid out before. Then we go to Jason Salalilo, who is from Christchurch, same as Makai Tafua. So we can add a Makai Tafua here. Makai Tafua, Linwood Jr., Jason Salalilo, Papanui Jr. The Warriors are back-to-back Harold Matthews Cup champions. Fantastic. They haven't lost a finals game in Australia ever. First 2 seasons, back-to-back champions, 6 finals games. Obviously, all 6 of those games are played in Australia. Warriors win them all. That's cool. But to be honest, we've been here before. We've seen the Warriors have an under-20s dynasty that had no connection, no correlation to NRL success. So yes, celebrate the under-17, back-to-back championships, amazing first seasons in Harold Matthews Cup. But let's chill out because we've seen it before. But of course, everything's different right now. That's what I hope. That's what we hope as Warriors folk. Who was the player of the match last year in the Harold Matthews Cup Grand Final? That was Lennox Tuiloma. Where's he from? Christchurch. Linwood Jr. He hasn't played this year. Okay, that's cool. We'll see how he goes. But he was the player of the match last year. He's from Christchurch. Who's the player of the match this year? Bishop Neal. Where's he from? Christchurch. Hornby Jr. So the 2 MVPs, the player of the matches, in back-to-back under-17 grand final wins, they are both from Christchurch. At the very least, that is aligned with St. Thomas at Canterbury going back-to-back with National Secondary Schools Championships. So there is that Christchurch, Canterbury, South Island flavour coming up through all of Aotearoa Rugby League, because who was the starting fullback for the Roosters SG Ball team that won that competition this year? Jackson Stewart. Where's he from? Christchurch. Hornby Jr. Manisha Seebeck played on the wing for the Roosters in the under-19 Tasha Gale Cup. They lost their final. Where's she from? Christchurch. Hornby Jr. as well. There's players from Christchurch in the under-17 team. There's Tanner Stowers-Smith at the NRL kind of tier. So you've got a heavy-duty Christchurch flavour, and throughout all our podcasts, blogs, newsletters, there is plenty of rugby league juniors, Kiwi NRL juniors, NRL Wahine juniors coming from Christchurch and Canterbury Rugby League. That is undeniable. That is emphatic at this stage. So you got to be used to it. But that is headlined by Lennox Tuiloma and Bishop Neal being the player of the matches in both Harold Matthews Cup finals. Bishop Neal's bit of a freak. And we'll see how he develops. Like, don't want to go too deep into analyzing under 17 players. We'll just see how he develops. Why can I be so chill about waiting to see how a clear freakazoid develops? Well, we've already seen a clear freakazoid, and I mean that in a beautiful, loving way. Leka Halasima, like, he's already there. He's already at the NRL level. There's another dude, Toby Crosby, who's just brewing in New South Wales Cup. The only player who I've seen with similar try-scoring highlights as Bishop Neal is Toby Crosby. And, I mean, Bishop Neal, he had one try this year in the under-17s competition. He's an edge forward. He takes a hit up in the middle of the field around halfway, chip and chase, scores in the opposite corner, in the far corner. That's one of the craziest tries you ever see. Who has highlights that can rival Bishop Neal? Toby Crosby. You know why? Because I saw Toby Crosby score a try from a hit up in under 21s. I saw him burst through the line, run past the fullback, and score a try off the kickoff. I also saw Toby Crosby break at least 10 tackles to run half the field and carry 4 players to score a try. So there's a freakazoid right there already in New South Wales Cup with Toby Crosby. I was thinking about it, and I genuinely think Toby Crosby's highlights are better than Bishop Neal's. And he's already there at New South Wales Cup level. And I don't even think that Toby Crosby is playing more minutes than Jason Salalilo, who is from Christchurch, who could be playing under 21s, but he's already playing New South Wales Cup, and he's playing 40 minutes this week. Toby Crosby only played 29 minutes. So you could say that Jason Salalilo is ranked ahead of Toby Crosby. He just doesn't have the highlights, but he is clearly an exceptional young middle forward if he's already churning out 40 minutes in New South Wales Cup. And, I mean, you can check in Lennox Tuiloma's highlights. That dude's he's fast, he's powerful, he's smaller than Neal, he's smaller than Salalilo and Crosby, but his try-scoring highlights from 2024 are just as impressive. Backline, I mean, we haven't really seen Sio Kelly much this season. He's a pretty freaky talent. Kalis Putoko is quietly brewing as the Jersey Flegg under-21s fullback. He was a schoolboy phenom in rugby union. My overall point here is that Bishop Neal's highlights are crazy. Bishop Neal is awesome. There is nothing negative to say about Bishop Neal and his influence in winning, because he's from St. Thomas of Canterbury. He's playing Harold Matthews Cup championships. He's winning shit. But there is no shortage of the freaky rugby league talents in Aotearoa, specifically in the Warriors pipeline. And like, you could go basically every tier, starting with Leka Halasima in the NRL team. There is some sort of freaky, hyper impressive rugby league talent in the Warriors system. And like, Salalilo doesn't have the try-scoring highlights of Toby Crosby. Makai Tafua doesn't have any highlights, really. He scores tries, but what does Makai Tafua do? He smashes people. He's a hooker, and he smashes people. he plays as a small forward in New South Wales Cup as an under-21s player. Like, there's just so many of these dudes coming through the Warriors system, finishing with the first appearance of the year for Jack Thompson. Now, Jack Thompson, where's he from? Newcastle.
Not Christchurch.
Not Christchurch, sorry. Jack Thompson was in the Newcastle Knights under-17 team last year. He left them midway through the season, came to the Warriors, and then the Warriors started to win more games. They won the championship. So Jack Thompson was playing under-17s last year, being recruited from Newcastle Knights. Jack Thompson started in the halves for the under-21s team this week. Jack Thompson might be 17 years old. He might be 18 years old. Who knows? But he's starting half in under-21s for his first game. Who was his halves partner? Jet Cleary. So the Warriors under-21 team, which isn't winning as much, to be fair, but that's all good. Development exercise, producing young talent that helps the New South Wales Cup team win, because they don't lose. The under-21 team had Jet Cleary, one of the most hyped halves in Australia and New Zealand, even though he is currently behind Luke Hanson, who plays New South Wales Cup every other week and is ranked ahead of Jet Cleary in the Warriors system. But the under-21 team, you had Jet Cleary and another half from Australia who was playing up a couple age groups, having just won the Harold Matthews Cup last year. Didn't play SG ball because he was injured, probably. He's straight into the under-21s team. Then the Warriors, they also go out and sign this other dude, Jai Linane, from the Knights. So the Warriors have just signed two halves from the Knights in the last 2 years. The Warriors have signed two halves from the Penrith Panthers in the last 2 years. Luke Hanson, Jet Cleary. Like, that's the thing that I've been talking a lot about, is how the Warriors are signing young Australian halves. You can add Sam Healey to the mix because he's a hooker from Australia. But if you go down the depth chart, you've got Luke Metcalf, Tanner Boyd, Luke Hanson, Jet Cleary, Jack Thompson, and Talon Egan's just around there. Talon Egan's been playing under 21s, bit of fullback, little bit of halfback, but he was 18th man when Jack Thompson returned. Next year, they'll add Jai Linane, and there's a whole bunch of Kiwi halves as well. So to end this Warriors extravaganza, before I blow my voice once again, I'll repeat this. This is the best, most fabulous halves depth the Warriors have ever had. There's a lot of Australians, but there's also a lot of Kiwi halves. You know, Maui Winatana Patalasio, Noah Jensen. You had two halves from Aotearoa in the Harold Matthews Cup team. So last year they won with Jack Thompson. This year the Warriors, they're starting halves in the final. Hinkley Ioka and Alapati Tusa Songia. Tyson Hansen didn't play the final. He's also another playmaker from Aotearoa. Once again, this is the best halves depth that the Warriors have ever had at a time where there is an abundance of extremely impressive youngsters on the rise, whether they are the Bishop Neal type of X-Factor, unique, freaky talents, or just really good rugby league talents like Deion Amatuano, Jason Salalilo, Makaya Tafua, and so on and so on. Crazy time for the Warriors.